I'm Pam, a mother, runner, business owner, and the host of the I Work For Me podcast. This podcast shares stories from the world of entrepreneurship because starting a business doesn't have to feel like a far-off dream, and running one shouldn't feel like a nightmare. Today, we have Nikki Caromba, amazing athlete, new business manager, and owner of Ontarget Interiors. You can connect with Nikki on Facebook or Instagram at Nikki Caromba. The links will be posted below. Nikki, thank you for agreeing to join us on the I Work For Me podcast. How does your average day look?
So there was a pre-COVID day and a post-COVID day. The two were very, very different. At the moment, I've got a lot more time on my hands, and that was mainly from lessons learned, which is great. And what I've found is it's easier for me to lead a less structured, rigid kind of program through my day, and more to allocate time and work on those things when it suits me best, as in when can I perform at my best. So an average day would be going to the office, kind of first sitting with staff, doing staff meetings first thing in the morning, and connecting with them, then getting into some work, going out, seeing clients for the rest of the day, and then in between that, figuring out children and home life and training. But I've learned, when the best time is to do that. So previously, children time was 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening when everyone's grumpy and no one wants to talk to each other. Whereas now I have the flexibility to kind of see them at lunchtime, after school or after sports, spend some time with them. Training, again, I use that flexibility. So I'm either training first thing in the morning or late in the afternoon, depending on my day, which is also good in a way that I'm not, stuck and rigid in this whole, I train at 5 o'clock in the morning, which has its own disadvantages from a training point of view.
Wow. So flexibility is definitely the one thing that you've gained out of all of this, which is fantastic. So what did you want to be when you were a little person?
I was definitely 100%, absolutely no doubt, going to be a marine biologist. So that was my destiny, and so it didn't work out that way. So I think from about 6 years old till 18, I was a marine biologist. I did all of my subject choice at school for marine biology. And then it was my dad, who, funny enough, is very much an animal person, very much a sea person, who was the one who sat me down and said, what exactly do you see yourself doing with this marine biology thing? I said, I'm going to be swimming with dolphins and saving sharks and turtles, And he said, no, you're going to be sitting in front of a microscope and studying corals. And is that what you want to do? And I kind of said, no, it's not what I want to do. And I mean, it was pretty much, I think, October of matric year when I suddenly was like, oh my gosh, now I don't know what I'm going to do. My dad is an architectural draftsman. So my whole life I've been around drawings and on building sites. And it was just a part of my life. It wasn't even a career. That was life. That's what we were exposed to all the time. And somebody came up to me and said, well, you've always been artistic and that kind of thing. So why not just go into design? And I was like, okay. And at that stage, it was the yellow pages. So it was looking through the yellow pages, no jokes, at design places I could go study. And I picked a couple, and I literally went to one, and they said, well, can we see a portfolio? And I said, I haven't done art because marine biologists don't need art. So I went home and I quickly put some stuff together, and I went, and they said, okay, cool. And the last day of matric, it was literally, we wrote our last exam, and I drove over to the college and I put my deposit down, and I got into interior design, and that was it. And here we are, 22 years later.
Wow, that's amazing. And you love it. Do you love what you do?
Love it. Absolutely love it. You go through phases with any career where you go, oh, okay, is there something I would rather be doing? And I couldn't imagine, I just couldn't imagine doing a different thing as a career. I can't see
every day.
Happening.
Waking up every day and going and doing something. So exactly. That's fantastic. Well, kudos to you. Very few people can actually say that, and that's really, really awesome. Then, what was your first job? So it wasn't marine biologist, and you were studying.
No. So the way I got into work is I was about 14 and I said to my mom, I don't know, I wanted a new shirt or new shoes or something like that. And she said, awesome, go and get a job. You want to go and get a job and buy your own stuff. So at 14, I got my first job working at a fish and chips takeaway. And that's where I started. And then I kind of liked getting money. So at 15, I got a waitressing job at a little coffee shop. And at 16, I think I had 2 waitressing jobs. By 18, I had my driver's license, and it was so funny because my parents, because I had this driver's license when I was young, they were so strict on my curfew and what time I had to be home during the week because of school, except when I was waitressing, then I didn't have a curfew because they were like, go out and work. So, I mean, even in matric, I had, I think, 2 waitressing jobs. And then when I left when I left school and started studying, I was waitressing in a coffee shop. I was waitressing at a restaurant. I was doing bartending. I was doing market research on a Tuesday night, phoning people to find out if they had read the Star newspaper. It was thrilling. I was handing out pamphlets on street corners, and I love it now when I drive down and I'm driving my kids to school and I go, I did that job once and you will too one day. And flip, I did promotions. I mean, there was a stage where I was studying and I had 5 jobs on the go, and they were all just these odd things that almost every single day I was working and doing something. And yeah, that was my life. It was, you work, you do stuff.
Wow. I mean, all those balls up in the air, and at such a young age as well. I mean, that must have given you so much insight into running your own business. I mean, because constantly juggling.
It's huge. It's, one of the things that I've always said is that if I believe every single child should waitress or waiter. I think it is one of the most horrible jobs, but the lessons you can learn there are phenomenal. So firstly, the pay might be horrendous or it might be good. Sometimes it's based on your performance. Sometimes it's based on the performance that is completely out of your control, and you have to deal with that. So an example of the food comes out of the kitchen and it's bad, but you have to put on your smiley face and say to the client, the person eating, I'm so sorry. And that's something that you have to learn to carry when it's not your fault, which happens every day in work. You have to work with a team, whether you like the people or not, which could be your daily grind at work. You have to learn how to manage your money. Your patrons might be the best people in the world, and they might be the worst people in the world to deal with. And one day that could be your boss, and you have to know how to put on your smiley face and perform at your best. And so I think every child should waiter, and probably waiter at the worst paying job would be the best experience, actually.
That is fantastic. Okay, so now you've done all this work and you got all this experience. Did you go back into employment, or did you start your own business straight off the bat?
No, so I was, I know that where I've got to has been a lot of hard work, but flip, I was lucky with a lot of the things that happened. So when I was studying, part of the 3rd year module is you have to do internship. So you have to do 3 months of internship while studying, while having 5 waitressing jobs. So I was so fortunate that I got my internship at a company. And so my college work was half day in the morning. I would then leave college and go straight to that job where it was half day in the afternoon, and then pretty much go from there to waitressing or bartending, whatever I was doing on that particular day. After the 3 months of my internship, that company then offered me to come back for the rest of the year, still part-time, while I completed my diploma. And then when I had finished my diploma in that December, they then offered me full-time employment. So I came out, I was already in a company, which was incredible. And it was probably the best company I could go to as my first experience, because it was a small company and I had to do so much. So if I had have gone into a larger corporate, I probably would have had to do one scope of work in that field, whereas here I was exposed to so much. And I was also very much dropped in the deep end, where they were like, here you go, here's your job, go and do it. So they gave me the opportunity to make so many mistakes, which you can't ask for more, actually, when you start a job. So if you can get all your, not that you get all your mistakes out, because I still do those every day, but if you can get loads of mistakes out quickly, the lessons you learn are just so quick, and then you can implement those, which were great. So I worked at that company, I think, for 3 years. I then moved on to another company, which was a little bit more corporate, a little bit, more structured than that. And I was working as an interior designer. From a skills point of view, I've always been stronger on the technical side of design than the decorating and colors and that kind of thing. I mean, people come to me and go, oh, can you help me with my house? I'm like, no, I can't do my own house, please. My business partner comes and does my house. So no, if you want me to draw some technical drawings, no problem, I'll do that. So I went into this company where it was a little bit more technical for me. But there I said, I'm giving 2 years as design for you, but then I want to move on to the project management side of things, which is more site-based, construction-based, client-based, that kind of thing. And there were a couple of reasons why I wanted that. The first one was I hated the structure in that company. I hated the fact that I was sitting in front of a computer every day, taking instructions and just doing. And it's funny how now finally I've got my life right, but I hated not having flexibility. It absolutely killed me. Whereas being a project manager, it was commission based. So again, I was more in control of the money I could earn. I didn't have the ceiling, created by a salary, which would terrify most people. People want to know, I've got a salary and this is what I'm earning every month, whereas I was opposite. I'm like, don't tell me what I'm earning every month. I'll go out and make money. And then it also gave me the flexibility because I was in and out more. I was able to interact with clients more and the site and the more technical aspects of it. So that was fast tracked. Thank goodness I didn't have to stay as a designer for 2 years. I think it was about a year or a year and a half. I then progressed onto project management. And I then did project management there for about 6 years. An incredible experience that I got there. And this is where the cool story actually comes in from how I landed up with my company today. So when I joined that company, the person whose position I took was Kerry Jacobs. So she had been a designer at the company. She had resigned and gone to another company. So I took her position. I think about a year later, she actually came back to that company and she had decided she didn't want to come back as a designer and she moved on to project management. So a year later, I then moved on to project management and she and I worked in parallel and became really, really good friends in the process. And we, a couple of years later, kind of said, we should be doing this for ourselves. And, like everyone does, what's your 5-year plan? Oh, I'm going to own my own company. Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, it's awesome. So, so easy, you should do it. So I know that's not the message in this podcast. Anyway, we spoke about it, but, we were working so hard. Like I can tell you the way she and I worked in that company, we gave everything. And then I'd been given the opportunity within that company to open up kind of a sister company, which was a great experience because I had to move from project management into sales. So the whole deal there was, okay, you go out and you do your business, which I had never done in my life. As a project manager, you're actually selling every day. You're chatting to clients and you're presenting things and you're selling budgets. But this was quite different in that it was this new business. And I was pushed into this role and I decided to give this company 2 years. So in that company, I had 7 partners, not ideal. And I went in, at least I got this experience. And after 2 years, Kerry she had already had a baby who was, I think, 2.5 or 3, and she was about to have her second baby, or she had just had her second baby. And that's when things started changing for us. You know, she was saying she had all this stress from work, and now she's got these babies and this husband. And there's the story where she tells of she had gone to a holiday. Her stepfather actually had a heart attack, and she decided to, you know, take the family on holiday and just everyone kind of, you know, de-stress on the beach. And there she was sitting with her BlackBerry. Blackberries are very, very old phones before we had iPhones. Kind of like phone book BlackBerry iPhone. So she sat with her BlackBerry in her costume, you know, kind of reading messages and then responding to emails. And her husband just said, like, what is this? What are we doing here? The whole point in us being here is to de-stress, and you are not stopping. Like, it's enough. And I had then had my first baby, and I was in the same situation where now I was in this company that I had absolutely no control over. I couldn't make my own decisions. I had no flexibility. And now I've got this baby, and I'm thinking, now what? You know, like, is this the life I want? And she and I sat together and we just said, this is ridiculous. You know, if we're going to stress this much and put this much time and energy into something, let it be for us. You know, let it not be for someone else and a different corporation or whatever it is. And so we had this plan, time-wise, on how we were going to do things. And I think we had about 6 months that we said, okay, within 6 months we can establish everything. We made sure we did everything by the book. So we went and spoke to lawyers, we spoke to accountants, you know, we kind of decided how we were going to do it. And we never wanted to be in a situation where there were any kind of murky waters between starting a new company and finishing off where we were. And then things went a little bit pear-shaped at where we were working, just from that stress point of view. And we both threw our heads in there going, it's not going to happen. We can't do this for 6 more months. And we pulled it and we started. And we both resigned because I was in new business. I had to leave immediately, but I still gave my notice, and I couldn't then work for a month, which was such a blessing because I actually then got a month of proper maternity leave with my new baby with no stress, which was incredible. Kerry couldn't leave immediately, and because she had all these projects and she made sure that she finished off every single project the best that she could. And we had another person who then came and worked for us, Laura, and she had worked for me for 2 years. She decided then, I'm not sure why, we sat her down and said, look, we're leaving. You can come with us. Don't know what we can offer you, or you can stay where you are. You'll always be taken care of. And she said, oh, I'll come with you. Not sure why she thought that. Anyway, so the three of us went off. It was 2010. It was, I think, 2 months before the Soccer World Cup. And if you can remember that year, nothing happened that year except for soccer. So if you're a soccer fan or if you're a soccer player, awesome year. If you did anything else, not so good. And obviously every single person we spoke to just said, you are mad, absolutely mad. The job, when I say job, you know, our contracting before then was incredible. The money was incredible. You know, we had all this and it was secure, and we just said it's not worth the stress. We're only doing this to get rid of the stress. And so we started this company, and then we just didn't stop. We started, the ball rolled immediately. We made some scary decisions, like we would never work from home. We would never be that design company who's working from a garage and people are supposed to take us seriously. So the first thing we did was we found offices to work from, which is scary, and there's overheads and that kind of thing. And we just said, if we're going to take this seriously, people must take us seriously, and we need to show people that. We were incredibly blessed in that the contractors that we had worked with for the previous 10 years, we contacted them and said, look, we're starting this thing, you know us, you know, will you work with us? And every single one came to us and said, we will give you the same terms as we've given the other companies. So they never viewed us as a startup. They were just like, we trust you, we know how you work, we understand your ethics. And so still to this day, we'll say that so much of our success is due to the way our contractors treated us in the beginning. So that was incredible. Obviously, it was such a scary time where we had come from this complete financial freedom to now we're not earning a salary and we're paying money to this business to work every month. And we were like, well, this doesn't make sense. You know, come the 24th of the month, then we putting our money in so we can, you know, or pay rent and pay this and this way. It's bizarre. But having said that, we had assumed that we would have to go about 8 to 12 months without a salary. And I think in about the 3rd or 4th month, we started drawing small amounts of money out of the company, obviously nowhere near to the salary that we were on, but, you know, these tiny amounts. And it just never stopped. So we stayed in our first offices, I think, for 2 years, and we outgrew that space. We then moved to our next offices for 2 years, and we outgrew that space. We were on the first floor of the building. We then moved to the ground floor of the building, took over double the space, and we must have been there for 2 years. And then we went on to buy our own building because we also said this is ridiculous. You know, because now we're an interior design company, when clients come into our space, it has to be amazing. You know, they can't walk in and go, oh, are you going to do our space and this is what you're working in? So we were investing all this money into landlords' buildings. And so we went and we bought this building, and it was this ugly little dog house. Not the house, it's in an office park. Revolting. But what's amazing about it is we completely transformed the interior, and it's got this amazing feel that when we bring clients to our office, I think part of them drives up and they have that feeling when they're pulling up and parking going, you know, what's going on here? And then they walk in and you just walk into the space, and it's absolutely incredible. I think we have been in those offices now. It's either 3 or 4 years. It's just hard to say with 2019. You know, it's I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. You know, 2019, 2020. Do we consider that a year or do we scrap it? I'm not sure. And those offices are just incredible. They are so beautiful. We absolutely love them. They're ours. They look like ours. They feel like ours. So yeah, it's incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah, from the staff complement, we went from the 3 of us to we've gone all the way up to I think 22 people, and now we're sitting at about 16 people, I think. So through the years, dependent on how busy we are, it's kind of fluctuated. So yeah, it's incredible.
Wow. Just listening to the story, I mean, and you've been going 12 years, and how you've grown and how you've developed, and I mean, but also all the lessons you learned when you were younger and how you've been able to implement them. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm absolutely blown away, Nikki. You guys have done a phenomenal job. So having taken all of this into consideration, and I'm listening to you and how much effort and how much work you put in, did it take you a while to adjust to working for yourself at all?
No. Kerry and I were both very fortunate because we had contracted before. We had so much exposure to being responsible for our own projects completely, and responsible for the money that we were making on those projects. We were so used to not getting a constant income of salaries. So we were very fortunate in it wasn't a big step for us. We were also very fortunate in we had both been exposed to different companies. So we could almost draw on that to go, I loved what this company did and how they managed these processes, but this didn't suit me and I loved this. So we were able to almost take the good from all these companies and implement that into our company. Having said that, there's been so many times over the years where we've sat looking at each other going, okay, I now understand why that company did it this way. So you learn those, you learn it. Oh yeah, and again, it comes down to those, the conversations you have with people of, oh, when I own my company one day, this is what I'm going to do. And again, you sit going, okay, talk to me in 6 years' time, So you learn those and you mature and you grow up and it's hard. I laugh because I say to my own staff, I say, if you want the progression in your career of moving and owning your own company one day, please come and speak to me. Like, don't go into it starry-eyed thinking it's amazing. Speak to me and I will explain to you, one, how difficult it is, to how rewarding it is, but don't go in thinking it's easy, because it is not easy. And there's things that you'll turn around afterwards and go, okay, I now know why my boss acted like this. Or yes, use the examples and go, I will do this differently, because I do think that the whole point in entrepreneurs is to try and create better office environments, better working environments, that kind of thing. And I honestly think, looking at kind of the entrepreneur environment and climates in South Africa, I do believe that we're getting that right slowly. You know, there's very few companies that I'm exposed to that I look at them going, that's how companies were run and managed 20 years ago. There is that shift in mindset. And I think we all very fortunate in that. And hopefully with the new guys coming up, starting business, they keep pushing that even further, you know, so that one day our kids will have incredible offices and environments to work in. That's all we can hope for, I think.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that that's what your aim is and what your goal is. It's awesome that you have a bigger plan than just making your next paycheck. Fantastic. So what did you realize was crucial to your business, the thing that you didn't know you needed? Because I mean, you sound like you had it all waxed, you had it organized, you knew what you were doing, you knew what you were going to do and what you weren't going to do. But having worked through it, and as you say, you've learned how suddenly, okay, this makes sense why they did that. But is there anything that you go, I didn't know that I needed this? And it's the one thing that really has helped.
So if I can first just say, the one thing that we did really well from day one, which a lot of startups don't do, is the documentation side of things. So we started this company, we spent hours with a lawyer, which costs a lot of money, to set up our partnership agreement and our ownership agreement, which is huge. And it's very difficult to ever catch that up and to ever dedicate the time to do it. And so we did that, so that knowing going into this relationship, it was very clear on how this was going to play out. And God forbid it doesn't work out, how are we going to exit that? So that was very clear upfront. When it came to staff and employment, we were very, very clear on employment contracts and pay slips. And that was something that at the time, I don't know if it's different now, historically design companies always slacked on that. You know, you were a designer and you're creative and your bosses were creative, and who needs a pay slip? And we were like, no, we are professionals as a professional company, and that's how we're going to run things, which was great. Things like financials and budgets and cash flow, we really had all of that from day one, which I can't imagine trying to catch that up in 3 years when you suddenly go, oh my gosh, we're a company now. How do you now catch that up? So we did that really, really well. And if I was speaking to someone who was starting their business, I'd say, do that stuff first. It's boring, it's tedious, it costs money, it's horrible. Do it. Like do not, you know, don't think that it's not important now. It is. Just get it done. Big lessons that we learned, and I think it's something we will continue to learn, is employment and who to employ and how to employ. Our interview process has changed so much over the last 12 years. And employing is so difficult. We've gone from sitting in interviews where we were so passionate, we are passionate, but we were so passionate about our company. We would sit in interviews selling our company to the guys in the interview, and then walk out and we were like, we love that person, the interview went so well. And then you realize, hold on, did the person even talk, or was that me? Was it awesome because my company's awesome? So we went quite wrong there. We went through the whole concept of, no jokes.
I love that.
We went through, you employ for skills, not culture or personality. We went through, you hire for personality and not skills. And we have burnt our fingers so many times on staff. And it's hard. I mean, the amount of people that we have employed who are just awesome people that we love and can't do anything in their job doesn't work, by the way. People do actually have to have skills to work well. And so we're at a place right now where that's one of the things that's difficult. Managing staff and managing output, it's not fun. It's kind of the whole thing of disciplining your child. it is way easier and more fun not disciplining your child. If you can eat ice cream for breakfast and not do homework, there will be no fights in your house, which is awesome. And then when your kid gets to 18 and still hasn't had their first job, and at 42 they're still living with you because they can't speak to a grown-up, that's when it catches up with you. So with employment, it's the same thing, is that you could employ, and we have employed the best human beings, but if they're not doing their job, it doesn't work. And that's a continuous management thing that you have to do, where you're just training and pushing and controlling and reining in and pushing out. And it's hard. And being an owner of a company and a manager within that company, so much of our time is taken up with HR and training, and you can't not do it. And I think it's something that we've had to learn in a small to medium-sized business, is that people want to work in those kind of businesses because they want that interaction with their manager and the owner. And you have to give them that attention. When you're a corporate and there's 1,000 people working for you and you've never spoken to 90% of the staff, it's okay. But when you've got 20 staff working for you, you have to connect with them every day. You have to know how they're doing. You have to communicate with them. And one of the things that we've learned is you can't stand back and go, they must just get on with their job. You know, my company, my ways. We have learned the greatest thing that you can do for a company and for staff is just communicate. And it's so simple, but it's so difficult to do. But if you can just communicate with your staff with the right team, it is incredible what you can get out of that and the relationships that you can build with your team. And it's so cliched, but it's like your team is everything. If you do not have the right team backing you up, you have nothing, absolutely nothing.
Well, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, 12 years on and you guys are still growing and going strong. So, I mean, there's obviously something to be said for what you're saying. So very, very impressive. Boundaries. How do you set your boundaries? I mean, I know you've said that you're very flexible and that sort of thing, but when is it that you actually go, I'm putting the phone down because I'm not going to work, or my kid has to go and sit outside and keep himself occupied because this is a crisis?
So, again, I'm fortunate that the generation that I'm in, I'm able to look at the generation that came before and see people who are incredibly successful and who have made millions and have never had relationships with their children, or people who are dying of heart attacks because they never led a healthy lifestyle. And I've been able to reflect on that and go, is that the outcome I want? Do I want to be 65, retired with millions, not knowing my children, worried about having a stroke? And the answer is no. The answer is, I want to enjoy my life every single day. So one of my biggest boundaries, and it took years to develop this, is all I actually have is time. Like, money helps with a lot of things. The whole people say money doesn't buy happiness, but I've never seen someone crying on a jet ski, I think is very, very true. So you need money, whether it's just to thrive or survive, whatever it is. But you can't get back time. I can spend money today and I can get it back tomorrow. But the time's gone. So I set very, very serious boundaries on how I spend my time. And a lot of it is who I spend my time on. So I have chosen, and obviously it changes, I've chosen people in my life that I value, and I will give 90% of my focus to those people. I was actually having this discussion with Kerry the other day, and it was very interesting. And I said, there's people that I will spend time with to help them. And when they come to me for assistance, I have absolutely no problem with helping, advising, supporting, whatever that might look like. And then that's it. Then I have the ability to walk away and go, I have done my bit in giving, but I am now not selling my soul or, bleeding my energy and emotions into someone that isn't valued in my life. And I don't know if it sounds selfish or it sounds hard, but I would rather give everything I've got to that close circle of people then, you know, kind of give them the leftover scraps that I've got emotionally, because I've spent all my time on someone who a year is going to forget who I am. So a big boundary for me is my time and who and how I choose to spend my time. And when it comes to training, it's a good kind of example that I can give to people on how you use your time is, you know, you speak to people who don't own their businesses or do own their businesses, and they go, oh my gosh, how do you find the time to train at the level that you do? And it's the simple maths equation. There's 24 hours in a day. Let's say you have to work for 8 hours a day, which I'm fortunate enough that a lot of the time I don't. There's 8 hours in a day that you're spending working. Hopefully you're getting 8 hours sleep, which we know most people aren't, but let's just all pretend that we're good and we're getting 8 hours of sleep. That's 16, so that leaves us with another 8 hours. I take very short, quick showers, but let's say you don't. So you like to lie in a bubble bath and you eat and you get dressed, which is something that you have to do every day. So let's say you're taking another hour or two on that. You have to sit in traffic, you're driving around, there's another hour in that. That leaves you with 4 to 6 hours in your day that can be spent with your kids, with your parents, with your husband, with your friends. And believe me, you can still spend an hour watching Netflix and find an hour to train. The problem is that people end up saying, I'm going to watch 1 hour of Netflix, and then all of a sudden it's How to Get Away with Murder, and so you're on episode 17 and you haven't actually even gone to the toilet yet. Or the problem is you go, I'm just going to look at Facebook for 5 minutes, and literally an hour has gone past and you have got nothing, no value out of that. So again, it's my value. Can I take an hour out of my day to go and get incredible training done? Easy. Even if you can only get half an hour from training, believe me, it is incredible. If you can spend an hour with your husband or with your kids or with your friends, that hour is so valuable. And if you just look at your day-to-day life and how much time you're spending on absolute rubbish, you will realize why every year you come to your New Year's resolution and you go, oh, I still haven't lost the 5 kilograms. I'm still not eating healthy. You know, I still haven't read the book I wanted to read. I still haven't gone to a soccer match. Because you're sitting using your time on junk, and you have to value your time. And it's those cliched things that, people on their deathbed, what did they, regret the most? Was it, I regret not spending more time at the office, or I regret not spending more time with my kids? But it's always time. That's what it comes down to. And that's my biggest boundary that I try and set. And like I say, believe me, there's loads of times I don't get it right. But my time is the most valuable thing I have on this planet.
I'm sitting here and I'm doing those calculations and I'm thinking, okay, I do that. I'm going, okay, so we're going to have to start looking at my time. But that lesson, Nikki, thank you, because I think that so few of us actually look at it that pragmatically. And that's what it is. It's about actually just going, and it's a simple calculation. So do it and make the choice. Wow, thank you so much for that. Okay, yes.
You're welcome.
I'll email you. I'll tell you how it goes.
I'll just invoice you later for those 5 minutes of wisdom.
Done. So, how do you sell yourself and your offering? I mean, you said that you had never been in sales until you got to the project management side of it, and then the new business. And then when you started Ontarget, I mean, that was it, sales. How do you do it?
So again, I've been exposed to very different sales people, and I had realized what sales methods and what sales personalities made me feel comfortable and what didn't. And I also realized that a lot of selling comes down to your personality. I was always anti-sales because in my mind, salespeople were those hard sells, sign up now, you've one free timeshare. And I don't respond well to that at all. what works well in my company and works well for me is that my sales are based on relationships. So it takes time. The negative on that is that I don't walk out today, meet someone, come back, sign a deal, and move on. Getting a job for me could take 3 months to a year to get work in, which is hard. I mean, that's difficult. But the rewards after that are massive because you've got more chance of getting repeat business. So a lot of it is going out in relationship building. A lot of it is a case of you're dealing with a company where the owners are involved. I'm speaking to you because I'm invested in this company, and therefore I'm invested in your project. And this is how we work. We do a lot of spec work. We do a lot of free work in the sales pitch cycle, which again is very difficult because now I'm literally throwing money and resources and time into projects for 6 months that I could get zero out of. But there, my actions become my sales tool. So I can come in, I can do a great tap dance on what I can produce for you, or I can show you how we work, how amazing our quality is, how fast our turnaround time is, the attention that you get, the skills, the service, all of that. So that to me, while it's an incredibly long sales cycle, it becomes an easy sell for me because this is who we are. You know, it's quite difficult when you're not selling a product. When you want to buy a Porsche one day, maybe, Pam, I don't know. You can walk onto the showroom floor, you can test drive a Porsche, and you can say, yes, that's what I wanted. I'm selling a dream. I'm selling something which will materialize in 6 months' time. And I can show you what it may look like, and I could show you what it will hopefully cost, and I can tell you how well I'm going to be managing it for you. But clients are going to go, how do I know? You know, are you joking? Like, really? Because I've heard my uncle's aunt once did their office and they were ripped off and they were 15 months late. So doing that free work helps. The other thing with having an established business, which is very hard for startups, is that the track record also sells itself. I literally say to my clients, I'm not going to give you references. Go onto my website, look at the offices that we've done, choose whichever one you want and phone them and ask. And one, we have in 12 months never missed a deadline. And two, those clients will tell you things went wrong on site, because if you've ever done any kind of building, you know something's going to go wrong. But when things went wrong on site, they were there, they fixed it, they were professional, they didn't run away. And that's the kind of track record that we have. So my track record also really helps to sell my services and what kind of product I'm going to give these clients.
It's amazing. And I've been listening to you and going back to your earlier question when we were talking about your contractors and them following you and being happy to deal with you. Your credibility seems to be the one thing, and your authenticity is the one thing that seems to go through the whole lot, that you've had a relationship with people and they are glad to continue with that. You have a relationship with clients and they are glad to continue with that. So that's really, really a fantastic lesson as well, is that your credibility and authenticity to consistently, I think that's the next one, is consistently be awesome.
And I can tell you, we've had times when we sit around our boardroom table and we say, okay, if we cut this corner, we could make better margins. Or if we weren't really honest about this kind of thing, we might win more projects. And each time we've gone, no, it's not happening, because there are so many companies like ours who don't get repeat business because they finish a project, they earn their money, which is great, and they walk away and there's unhappy clients. And we just said, we don't want that. You know, we always want a client to be able to turn around and go, yeah, exactly what they promised us, we got, which is amazing. We never want comeback. So again, it's almost like the way we created those foundations of our company when we started, of we're doing it right, we're not stealing clients from our previous employees, we're not leaving without finished projects. The way we started our company with integrity is something we've always carried through, that these are the people that we are. We lose jobs because of that. I can guarantee you we lose jobs because we will go in quoting and going, here's our quote for everything. a client might get a quote for that and they're cheaper. And we know that those people haven't quoted on everything, and we could do the same. We're not willing to do it. So that integrity to us is huge. That, and like I say, we literally lose projects because of our integrity, and we're just not willing to waver on that.
That's not a bad thing, is it? I mean, who wants to
I hope
win a no? I mean, I would hate to have a job land in my lap because I've been, dishonest in any way. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Completely different ball game altogether there. Okay, so so then I have to ask you, besides losing those couple of projects because people going for the cheaper ones, failures, which ones stand out? What have you learned from them?
So funny enough, like stupid little failures, and I think it's because Kerry always rips me off about them. When we were a small company, obviously at that stage we didn't have these roles, we were all just doing everything. And we had a project in Cape Town which I was managing because I was the only one who was happy to travel. And I spec'd everything and designed everything and went down, because I was on that project. I was the designer and the quantity surveyor and the project manager. And I went down, and the couch was delivered, and it was a very, very expensive couch, and it didn't fit through the front door. I was like, I phoned Kerry. I was like, hey, we've got a new couch. Can't wait to have it in our offices. Costs more than our rent. So like stupid things like that. And I think the lesson I learned in that isn't necessarily measure your door and measure your couch, but it's actually, if you're not focused on a role, it's very difficult to do things properly, and similarly, Kerry and I at that stage would work on projects together to go, okay, I would do more the technical and construction stuff, she would do this side, and things fall through the cracks because I assume she's doing something, she assumes I'm doing something. And so, our failures were often not taking full responsibility for something.
Okay.
And there's so much power in that. So it's something that I've now done where I'm a case of, this is my role and this is what I do. This is Kerry's role. And it's something that we've pulled through to our staff as well, to go, we don't have staff who do everything because things fall through the cracks. So we have project managers who are amazing project managers. We have designers who are incredible designers. We have our admin, we have HR, we have that. And it's incredible because those people are really focused on what they do. The other big mistakes that we've made, it comes back to what I was saying earlier, was unemployment. I mean, every now and again, we kind of, go through our little black book of people who worked for us before. And it's so clear afterwards the mistakes we made on the employment, either looking at these people and go, oh, she's awesome, got to have her part of our team, no skills. Or, geez, this guy has skills, he's gone in, he's sold himself, like, we need this person on our team. And then like, whoa, that was a lot of hot air, and it's, when you look back, you're like, oh my gosh, like, what was I thinking that day? So huge mistakes have come through on employment. And we've rectified that with just what could be an incredibly tedious employment process that we have, but we know it now works. We know we now sit around a table, but by the time we put an offer on the table, we know this is the one for us.
It's fantastic. Wow. And then advice to someone looking to start their own gig. I mean, what is the one bit of advice? You go, I'm working for a boss, I'm thinking of starting my own business. What do you suggest?
Okay, so
other than talking to you, because you're the person to come talk to.
Did I say that? Sure, I didn't. Sure, I said I wouldn't give advice. So, firstly, make sure that you know how to manage your money. So, people who are set on salaries all the time, I think it will be very, very difficult to start a company and to have no control over that. Make sure you've got enough money in savings to carry your company, not only yourself, carry your company for minimum a year. I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and he was saying to me, he believes in this day and age, you have to have 3 years. Whoever's got 3 years money lying around, give me a shot. I can design some offices for you. But and when I say have that money available, be willing to lose every cent of that money. Understand you do not walk into a business and just make money off the bat. It's also very easy for me to sit here right now and go, oh, this is where we started, and 12 years later, it's amazing. You do not understand the lows that you go through in that period of time. So understand up front, it is difficult. It is so, so difficult. Financially, you have to be so stable. It's going to be late nights. Do not go into a business thinking, I'm working for myself, so it's going to be so awesome. And, Nikki has so much flexibility. Yeah, I have flexibility 12 years later. So that's where it came in. It's going to be long nights, and it is stressful. Yes, the good side is it's your stress, it's your baby, which is very different to the same stress as somebody else's, but you carry that alone. I am so blessed to have a partner. There are so many entrepreneurs I speak to who are the only owner of a company, and that is such a lonely place to be, because you have no one who understands what you're going through, no one to kind of pick up the slack when you can. So if you can, have a partner. If you have a partner, you have to trust that partner the same, if not more, than you trust your husband. It's like, because basically if your business fails, it affects your husband, your children, your house, everything. So you have to have trust. Set up all of those documentation side of things up front. Do not think it's going to be airy-fairy and everyone's going to be friends, and you don't have to put in leave forms. You do. You put in leave forms, get them signed, get your sick days in order, get all of that kind of thing sorted out. And just keep positive. You will have nights where you cry yourself to sleep, and you just have to remind yourself each time why you've started this in the beginning. So much of my life revolves around the why. Why did I start my own company? Why did I get into this industry? Why do I run? Why did I choose to have children? And make sure you've got answers to all of those things. And if you don't, figure them out, because what are you doing this for? So why are you starting this company? Write it down on a wall. And if it changes over the years, that's fine. But just make sure you always know where that is, because you can lose sight of that so quickly, and then it's just a downward spiral, and you're just working every night, and you've forgotten why you started this, and suddenly you being your own boss is worse than that guy you worked for 5 years ago. This person's way meaner. You'd go back to him in a heartbeat.
No, I don't even want to be that person. I don't want to work for myself. Then you know that you're bad. And then I've got to ask you, seeing so, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
Oh.
I knew you'd like that one.
Oh my gosh. I asked that in interviews just because it's like the worst question in the whole world.
Exactly.
So the cool thing about this is that if I'm going to do something, it's going to be this. It's like, I don't know what else I could do. I don't know I don't want to have a shop baking cupcakes. The way my life is set up right now is amazing, that I have flexibility. I have the successful company. I love my job. I love what I'm doing. So let's say I do make millions somehow, millions and millions over the next 5 years. I would still be involved in this company. I would still consult to this company. I love this company. This company is my second child, but actually my third child. Don't tell my second child I said that. But it's part of me, and I've invested so much. So I couldn't see myself being completely out of it. I love my life. So yeah, the flexibility is amazing. Like a lot of people are talking right now, I would like to not see myself in Joburg. But yeah, it's an amazing place to be. So yeah, the usual. Love to be making more money, but I don't necessarily want a bigger company. I don't see myself having a company with 80 staff. I don't want that kind of stress. I don't want to be working in that kind of environment. So it's a horrible answer, but if I can be where I am now, living the same lifestyle, it's amazing. I'd be very blessed to even have that.
Wow. That is the epitome of being your own boss. I am so impressed. That's fantastic. Any final words before we close then?
The one thing that I think is an incredible lesson, and I know it's probably not the market that we're going to be looking at for this podcast, but when I think about kids at school, and I know we were talking earlier before we started recording about children who battle through school, I just want to let kids know that when Kerry and I, again, we have this discussion often, my life and Kerry's life we had complete opposite paths. From family environment, complete opposite, to school environment, complete opposite. I was very fortunate that school was incredibly easy for me. I didn't have to study hard. I could get 5 A's, easy peasy. I was team captain of every sport that I was doing. School was super easy for me. Kerry, school was an absolute nightmare. She struggled through studying. She was not sporty. It was complete opposites in that. And we have ended up in exactly the same place. We have ended up with the same company, earning the same amount of money, with the same living conditions, with the same family. So don't let your school years dictate to you how you're going to land up in your future. And it's so hard because I also know when you're at school, that is your everything. You can't see beyond that year, let alone beyond the next 5 years. So it is hard and it weighs heavily on you. But understand that school is your foundation. It is not a dictator of where you're going to land up in your life. If anything, it's a case of, cool, matric is done, let's drop that, and now let's get started on what I actually can or want to do in the rest of my life. So just an interesting little piece.
No, but that, as you say, we were discussing kids earlier, and we tend to put so much pressure on them to perform at school so that they can, but you're right, life only starts after matric.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure that
don't drop out of school.
You have to do your matric.
Don't let it freak you out.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much. And Nikki, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's been such an amazing experience hearing your story and all your bits of information. And when I decide to start an interior design company, I know who I'm going to come speak to.
It shouldn't be over coffee. Like, let's just do gin or something. We can make it real.
Absolutely. I love that. Definitely. Excellent.
Thanks so much. So much fun.
You. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview and that you feel inspired to take your business to the next level. Please subscribe for more. Connect with me and the community online at I Work For Me, and head over to the website for interesting reads and resources. If you like, you can support the team by buying them a coffee. Until next time, keep up the grind.